I'm sure you've heard the old insult, you inbred white, you inbred sunburnt Europeans, inbred white's entire personality. You pure white race comes from inbreeding. Prashant Seth. Oh my God, United States in 2026. Floridians can still marry their cousins after lawmakers fail to pass statewide ban. Let's take a look at who Prashant Seth is. Oh. Dare I say, is that Prashant to the right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy's from India. Ha ha ha, the dark areas are where incest is most common. Look where India and Pakistan are, and look how dark they are. 70% of Pakistani marriages are between cousins, but you're Indian. I'll go find the rates in India. Haha, 24% of people marry their cousins in South India, and it's 8% in North India. That's way higher than the most backwards county in Kentucky.
I think a part of it was inbreeding.
This is your own theory.
No. Look at
Someone else
Muslims
has a theory?
and inbreeding, major problem.
I've never heard this before.
Especially with immigrants in Britain, like the Pakistanis in London. They'll have all kinds of serious inbreeding problems because that's an even smaller sample size you're dealing with.
Strap yourself in for this. 70% of all Pakistanis are inbred. And in Turkey, the amount is between 25 to 30%. More stillbirths among immigrants. A rough estimate reveals that close to half of everybody living in the Arab world is inbred. A large percentage of the parents said, this is blowing my mind. So listen to the BBC investigation in Britain several years ago revealed that at least 55% of the Pakistani community in Britain was married to a first cousin.
Couple defend first cousin marriages amid ban call. This is Israr Hussain and his wife, Taslim Akhtar. They chose to have their wedding back home in Pakistan in 2007 and live in Birmingham, England. The 47-year-olds are not only husband and wife, but are also first cousins, as both of their fathers are brothers. What they were not warned about was any potential health risks that could occur if they had children. But even if they had known, Miss Akhtar said it would not have made a difference. That's God's will. Nobody can say anything about this. Even if you marry outside the family, it could still happen, she said. First cousin marriages are more prevalent in certain communities across the UK. According to a 2021 study, about 55% of British Pakistanis are married to first cousins.
BBC's research also discovered that while British Pakistanis account for just 3.4% of all births in Britain, they accounted for 30% of all British children with recessive disorders and a higher rate of infant mortality. What in the fuck? Labour Party MP has called for a ban on first cousin marriage. Medical evidence shows that one of the negative consequences of inbreeding is a 100% increase in the risk of stillbirths. Wow. That is insane.
I also read somewhere that a lot of the symptoms of inbred people are irrational rage, fanaticism, and they end up just describing ISIS.
Look at what it says here. That with the IQ points, it says findings on intelligence. Research shows that if one's parents are cousins, intelligence goes down 10 to 16 IQ points. The risk of having an IQ lower than 70, criterion for being retarded, in quotes, are they using that word? Increases 400% among children from cousin marriages. Well, let me say that again. The risk of having an IQ lower than 70 increases 400% amongst children from cousin marriages. Jesus Christ.
Then why don't we know this? Because people don't like the truth.
Islamophobia. They don't like being called Islamophobic by even discussing it. Like, we're going to be called Islamophobic for even bringing this up.
For this video, you're going to have to widen the horizon of your vocabulary. Consanguinity means marriage of the same blood. It's a pretty word for inbreeding. Oxford academic. Consanguinity and genetic diseases in North Africa and immigrants to Europe. Consanguinity is common in North Africa, and the estimates range from 40 to 49% of all marriages in Tunisia and 29 to 33% in Morocco. This is why some African cultures allow family members to marry each other. One harmful side effect of this cultural trait is the problem of child marriages. This issue has seen decades of attention by African activists and governments. However, another murky phenomenon in African marriages, which does not come under discussion as often, is consanguineous, same-blood marriages. From the north down to the south of the continent, it is common to see such marriages. This seeming regularity could have been supported by more recent data, but there has been none in a while. According to a 1994 study by Alan Biddle for Population Development Review, some 1 in 3 African groups of people either accept or prefer same-blood marriages to external unions. Among the Hausa, Nigeria's biggest ethnic group, same-blood marriages are popular. Being a largely Muslim population, the men tend to marry multiple wives, with some of these wives being related. The situation is not too dissimilar among the Yoruba, another huge ethnic group in Africa's most populous country. In Yoruba culture, not only are cousin marriages accepted, but unions between uncles and nieces, too. The Fulani of West Africa, the Akan of Ghana, the Sotho Toswana of Southern Africa, and the Berber tribes of North Africa all entertain one or another form of same-blood marriages. ResearchGate, consanguinity among the Saudi Arabian population. The study was conducted on 3,212 Saudi families to investigate the prevalence of consanguineous marriages. The overall rate of consanguinity shows that 57.7% of the families screened were consanguineous. Journal article written by Khyber Safai, Consanguineous Marriages in Afghanistan. The study shows that Afghanistan's populations, like other Islamic populations, have a high level of consanguineous marriages. The proportion of consanguineous marriages in the country was 46.2%, ranging from 38.2% in Kabul province to 51.2% in Bamiyan province. National Library of Medicine. Awareness of consanguineous marriage burden and willingness towards premarital genetic testing in Sudan, a national cross-sectional study. It is globally estimated that over 20% of different communities prefer intrafamilial marriages, and over 8.5% of all children in the world are the outcome of such unions. However, the rates of consanguineous marriage vary worldwide. Low prevalence is found in Western countries, with a 1 to 10% range in regions such as North America, Australia, and most of Europe, the Iberian Peninsula, Japan, and South America. On the contrary, consanguineous marriage is widely practiced in some countries in Asia, Africa, and the Arab world, while MENA region records some of the highest consanguinity rates from 20 to 50%. Included in the MENA region, Sudan was found to have consanguinity rate as high as 44 to 63%. Although there is a lack of updated national statistics, in 1995, the Federal Ministry of Health reported that 65% of women in Sudan were married to an extended family member. Wherein a study in Khartoum Hospital, Sudan, reported that 49.5% of women were married to a first cousin and 14% married to a more distant relative. Consanguineous marriage, including cousin marriage, is a deeply rooted cultural tradition in Somalia, with estimates suggesting that between 35 and 50% of marriages involve relatives, particularly in studies referencing the wider region. This practice is part of a broader 20 to 50% prevalence of consanguinity found across North Africa and the Middle East. Avunculate marriage is a union between an uncle and his niece or an aunt and her nephew, typically representing a third-degree genetic relationship. Global practices and cultural context. This custom is most notably practiced or permitted in the following regions and communities: South India, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. This is one of the most prominent modern regions for the practice. It is culturally preferred among many Hindu communities, except in Kerala, for a man to marry his sister's daughter. In Tamil Nadu, these weddings are often called Thai Maman Kalayam. Jewish communities, traditional rabbinic law permits and historically even encouraged uncle-niece marriages, viewing them as meritorious. This remains an occasional practice in some Haredi, Chassidish circles in Israel and the United States. However, the Torah strictly forbids aunt-nephew unions. And you know there's going to be these self-loathing, mentally ill white people who propagate these filthy, racist, anti-white lies.
White people, we are an incestuous race. We have incest in our bloodline. Let me break it down for you. In America, back in the day, especially in the South, we, white people, used to marry our own cousins in order to keep plantation money within the family.
While there's no official U.S. Census figure for this specific descent, estimates based on historical population, contemporary surveys data suggest that roughly 20 to 30% of white Americans today are descended from the white population of the Civil War era South. Concentration of wealth. Ownership was not evenly distributed. About half of all slaveholders owned fewer than 5 people. Large planters, those owning 20 or more slaves, represented only about 3% of the population but controlled the majority of the region's wealth and political power. So being that only 3% of the 20% of white Americans tracing their lineage to Civil War era Southern whites were plantation owners, what percentage of modern whites are descended from them plantation owners? 0.6% to 0.75%.
But we could take it before then. We could look at Europe. In UK, we had a disease called the royal disease, which was hemophilia. Because of the way recessive alleles work, there was so much incest in the royal family that they were more prone to getting the royal disease.
The royal family circle, less than 0.01%. If you mean the extended royal family, cousins, aunts, uncles who actually show up to weddings or are in the line of succession, the number is tiny. There are roughly 5,000 people worldwide in the formal line of succession for the British throne, which is a negligible percentage of the 67 million people in the UK.
But we could go back to our inception. One of the biggest lies we like to tell people is that we white people created society in Greece. Well, in Greece, there's a tale called the Oedipus tale. And that is where Freud came up with the Oedipus complex, in which the white male wants to kill his father in order to marry and have sex with his mother. That is incest. We have incest all the way back to our inception. Do you know who doesn't have these tales? Black people.
Really, that's interesting because every single source that I was able to find on the entire internet shows the darkest areas of the world, hence with the most inbreeding, are Africa and the Middle East. 1 in 3 African groups of people either accept or prefer same-blood marriages to external unions. Nigeria's Hausa, the Yoruba, the Fulani, the Akan, the Sotho-Tswana, the Berber, Sudanese, Tunisia and Morocco, the Somalis, Saudis, Afghans, the Pakistanis, are just some of the many ethnicities across the world who have astronomically higher rates of inbreeding than us white people do. Genomic Population Studies. A 2019 study published in Nature Communications analyzed 450,000 participants of European ancestry in the UK Biobank. It found that extreme inbreeding, relatedness closer than second cousins, occurred in just 0.03% of the sample. Birth cohort data. The Born in Bradford study, which tracks health in diverse UK city, found that cousin marriage was rare among white British participants. Only 5 cases out of thousands. In contrast, rates were much higher, up to 59% in the Pakistani heritage group, illustrating that low rates are specific to the white European descent population in the UK. U.S. statistical estimates, data from the General Social Survey, and other sociological research suggests that approximately 0.2% of all U.S. marriages are between second cousins or closer. Because many U.S. states have legal bans on first cousin marriage, researchers note the actual numbers may be slightly higher due to underreporting. Global comparative research, summaries from researchers like Alan Biddles, a leading expert on consanguinity, consistently place rates for Western Europe, North America, and Oceania at less than 1%.